Right, joining us now for more insight is Gur Tsabar. He's a press officer for the Global Sumud Flotilla. He joins us live from Toronto. Gur, thank you so much for your time. What have you heard from the vessels?
Yeah, this is just a straight up attack on civilians in international waters, unarmed civilian boats, hundreds of miles from Israel, are being surrounded and threatened at gunpoint. That's not security. It's the use of military force against civilians in international waters. This is illegal under international law. Israel has no jurisdiction in these waters. Intercepting or boarding these vessels would amount to illegal detention, potentially kidnapping on the high seas. So it's critical that all governments act now. Every government has an obligation to protect the over 400 civilians on board and uphold international law. Silence in this moment is absolute complicity. There needs to be immediate intervention to ensure the flotilla's safety and to ensure we can continue to open the humanitarian corridor to Gaza.
Okay, I want to talk to a few of those points in a moment, but can you tell me what communications you've been able to have with the people on board the flotilla?
Yeah, we're in constant communication with all the boats on the flotilla, and what we've heard is that go ahead.
No, please finish.
Yeah, no, what we've heard is that Israeli military vessels have approached the boats with guns and lasers pointed at participants, asking them to move to the front of the boats, to get down on their hands and knees. This is unconscionable, and we're hundreds of miles away from Israel. Israel has no business here at all.
Yeah, it's very clear you have concerns for their safety. You've made the point, and this is what I want to dig into here, the distance that they are still from Gaza. It's maybe to about 2/3 of the journey so far, so still a good distance away. Are you surprised that the interceptions have started this far out?
Nothing surprises us anymore by the IOF and the Zionist state. There is no bottom to their behavior, which we have seen day in, day out in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Yemen, in Iran. There is no bottom to how they think about things, and this is par for the course. Nothing surprises us here anymore.
Okay, well, talk us through what is actually aboard the flotilla. If you were, telling our audience about what is so badly needed in the occupied territories that it is coming in on these boats.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's important to remember, these are civilians stepping in where governments have failed. We have boats, some are super small, some are slightly larger, that are bringing some aid. But the idea here is to open up a humanitarian corridor to Gaza, to break Israel's illegal siege on Gaza and on Gaza's shoreline. So that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I guess because it's less about then the goods and the items you're carrying, given the size of the population that is in dire need of aid, and more about the message that is being sent.
It's about the message, and it's about mechanically opening up a humanitarian corridor so that then proper amounts of aid can actually flow into Gaza. Make no mistake, Israel has further shut down entry of aid into Gaza, especially since the ceasefire and especially since they started attacking Iran. They have sealed Gaza. They're sealing the West Bank. They are stopping all aid from coming in. The genocide is continuing. The starvation levels are at unconscionable levels. The healthcare system is in practical collapse. So the fact that civilians are now out in sea doing what governments should have long been doing is beyond unconscionable. But it's also to keep sending a message to Israel and the world that when governments fail, we civilians will keep going to make sure that Palestine is freed.
Can we talk about the keep sending of the message? Because these flotillas have been a feature for many, many years, which obviously speaks to a need. But at the same time, can you talk to us? Why do you keep persisting when Israel is so determined and so successful at stopping them?
Well, it's important to not think about, the flotillas have a ton of impacts. The sea activates the shore. We have to remember that every time a flotilla moves towards Gaza, so much happens around the world around the flotillas. Last year, around this exact same mission of the Global Sumud Flotilla, we saw Italian dock workers hit the ports in incredibly huge numbers. We saw citizens in Italy come out in the millions to protest and to support the flotilla. This happens at every port we stop in, and it's also just used to be perfectly frank, to insert Gaza back into the media bloodstream. We know that since the ceasefire, the supposed ceasefire, which is clearly not a ceasefire, since that was enacted, that has completely shut Gaza out of the news stream. So this serves a lot of different purposes, and that's why this keeps going. That's why activists and organizers keep doing these flotillas year after year after year to create exactly this moment in time, exactly this pressure, exactly this time. Why I'm even on here, right? And Al Jazeera is on the better side of things than most than certainly Western media. So it's this is the point.
Gur Tsabar, thank you very much for your time on the program, and we will of course join you again so you can keep us updated. Thank you. All right, we're going to go now to Jack Barton, who joins us live from Amman. Jack, Israeli media is reporting that these interceptions have begun. It is still a long way out from Gaza. What are Israeli authorities saying about it?
Yeah, that's right. So far, it's still coming from anonymous sources, but Israeli media and even Israeli army radio reporting, having talked to Israeli sources, that they are confirming that this is an Israeli intercept. I just spoke to an activist on one of the vessels in the flotilla, and he was saying that they're playing music over the radio as well as telling people to turn back. It's the same music they were playing last year in that big intercept when we saw boats boarded and people detained. Still unclear what's happening, but the person on that boat told me it is still happening right now, that the entire flotilla is surrounded. Those warnings are still being broadcast across the radio. They're being told that they are breaking international law, even though they're in international waters, and they're being told to turn back. There have been those reports on the flotilla social media of the guns being aimed at people, lasers, people being told to get on their hands and knees. I asked the activist, he said he hadn't seen anything like that himself, but of course this is a huge flotilla. It's believed to be 80 to 100 boats, the biggest flotilla yet, with people from around 60 countries. They're saying about 1,000 people in total. So it's still a very mixed picture. All of this, of course, coming also just after Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, put a sanction on a group that had been fundraising for this flotilla. So that announcement came out, and then this action took place. And you mentioned the distance from Gaza. In theory, Palestinians are meant to have control over 12 nautical miles off the shore of Gaza. Most Israeli intercepts are at around 20, and the big intercept we saw last year was 72. That's about 133 kilometers. This one would be about 1,400 kilometers away if they are off the southern coast of Greece. So this would represent 10 times further than any previous Israeli intercept. And that's why perhaps there was so much disbelief at the start, and why they were saying people are self-identifying at Israel, some activists believing it was still the Greek Navy or the Coast Guard.
Yeah, and obviously it would be slightly confusing given where it is and that these are events that are still unfolding. What do we know then, or what do we think Israel plans to do from this point forward with those people aboard the ships from here, and also given the distance that they are?
We don't know. Again, as this activist just told me, this is still ongoing and surrounded, and it's unclear whether the boats are being boarded or whether at this point it is still just a warning and an attempt to disperse the flotilla. The activist I was speaking to said he hadn't seen any of the boats boarded, but we have seen those other social media messages which indicate a more assertive sort of stance on at least several of the vessels. But we're going to have to wait and see what is actually happening out there. It is a long way away. At the moment, it could just be an attempt to try and disrupt the flotilla, to split it up and turn some of those boats back. But it is certainly a bold move in international waters so far from Gaza to attempt something like this and to send the Navy so far out. But again, this is happening as we speak. These boats are surrounded right now. They're being warned over the radio right now. We're going to have to wait a little bit of time to find out what is actually happening and what the intention of the Israeli Navy is.
Jack Barton joining us live from Amman. Thank you.